wonder how long that'll run. I wonder what it sounds like. I wonder if I need a different camera besides a fucking cell phone. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Yep, that's pretty straightforward. But how many of you guys out there actually believe that your right to keep and bear arms is protected because you're in a militia? Let me tell you something, nothing can be farther from the truth. You know what the word regulated actually means? It means to be kept within certain limits. Above a certain minimum, below a certain maximum. Now back in the day when the English language wasn't as subjective as it is today, pretty damn straightforward meaning. The militia, which by the way is a group of armed individuals acting under some political authority, not a bunch of guys running around in the woods shooting shit up. Whether it's a state, traditionally, and that's what you think of anyways, or even a county, and municipalities had militias. They were armed individuals who could be called up by some political subdivision. Again, mayor, county seat, governor, whatever. But they weren't militia until they're acting under the authority of that political entity. United States Army, take contemporary example. A bunch of guys in the Army, they go out on army maneuvers. They're shooting up government ammo, they're there under the authority of the government. That's an Army exercise. Take the same guys on a weekend, roaming around in the woods just busting up the trail. That is not an Army exercise. They're not acting as Army. They're on their own. Militia. You're not a militia unless you are operating under the authority of some political entity. You can practice as a militia because that practice is actually under the authority of that political entity or political subdivision or whatever. But just going out on your own and saying, we're a militia, you know, you can call yourself what you want, but in truth, a militia is only a militia if it's acting under a government authority. Now, let's get back to regulated. What was the fear? If you just accept militia as being any armed group operating under government authority, doesn't matter what it is. You can call it Army, Navy, Marines, National Guard, Coast Guard, Air Force, whatever. It all falls under the general heading of militia. The militia has to be strong enough to repel invaders and protect the citizenry, yet not so strong as to be able to oppress or enslave the citizenry. It has to be regulated. Now, how do you do that? You do that with two tools. First, it's a citizen militia, citizen soldiers. Yeah, these are Americans who are armed and who will not just put on a uniform and act as militia, National Guard, Reserve Army, whatever, but also people who will fight alongside, shoulder to shoulder, if it becomes necessary, in order to defend the state, or to some extremes, I suppose, any innocent. Nevertheless, the citizenry is supposed to not just make up the militia, but also to be ready to fight alongside it. That's one of the things that helps the militia be at that minimum level, strong enough to repel an invader and defend the state. Well, how do you stop it from being too powerful? Pretty much the same way. Citizens are the militia, or at least the militia is composed of citizens. There's a little bit of a difference there, but anyway, those people, when they are called up by a political authority, they will answer that call acting as the militia. Now, if a militia is called up by a nefarious political agent for evil purposes, the citizens are citizens first. Not all of them are going to answer that call. Being human and stupid, and quite honestly cowardly, many would. What do you do to stop that armed entity from becoming powerful enough to overcome, suppress, oppress, and ultimately enslave the citizens or the people? Simple. They're armed. They're supposed to fight against that nefariously called up militia. So the citizen, whether or not they're officially in a militia, has two purposes. One, to assist the militia when it's appropriate, and second, to resist the militia when it's appropriate. This is where the militia guys go off the rails. They say, or believe, or espouse, that your right to keep and bear arms is protected because you are militia. No. United States Code Title 10. Any able-bodied male between the ages of 18 and 45 is part of the unorganized militia. Well, I'm over 45. I'm 64. I'm a fat old bastard. I can't do much. My days of assault are over. And about the only thing I can storm is the bathroom in the middle of the night. I'm not going to be some badass anytime soon, or for that matter, anytime in the future at all. But I will fight against a nefarious organization, or even an otherwise benevolent organization called up for nefarious purposes. That's how the militia is kept, at a certain minimum, able to repel invaders, able to protect the state, but not more powerful than the state can bear. You fight alongside the militia, or you fight against it. Your right to keep and bear arms is not protected because you're militia. Instead, your right to keep and bear arms is protected specifically because you're not. And there's two things you need to take away from that. Number one, you're not militia. You're not militia unless you are operating under a political authority. Your job is to fight alongside or fight against the militia. And number two, that means that any weapon the government is willing to bring to bear against its citizens must possess. It's a little frightening even for the so-called pro-RKBA crowd. But it is, nevertheless, the intent, the stated principle, and an internal concept. If you believe in a government that is designed to keep people free, you have to accept this. Let's recite the Second Amendment again with our new understanding. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That make a little more sense than the crap you've been fed for the past few decades? That's the reality of it. So you keep and bear those arms and you don't surrender them. You're responsible for the security of your neighborhoods as well as your households and your state. And there may come a time you may have to drive that point home. I hope not. I feeling real good about it. Stay well.